Hello and welcome to the WrestlePurists Podcast. I'm joined today by Mr. LateNightGrin.com, Joe Hulbert, and we are here today to kind of just do a, end of the week, Sunday, chilled sort of talk. We'll go over some of the most recent news and yeah, man. So how are you today, Joe? How are you doing?
Well, I think like the rest of us, I'm just lost in glory and excitement after Impact last night. I know it's been a very triumphant day for a lot of us, and I'm good. It's just 10 p.m. here in Great Britain, as you know, Monty. So we're both, I think, going to approach this with the energy that folks are used to when it comes to us. We're going to sort of sail through this. But it should be fun. I'm always happy to be here, man. You know that.
Yeah, I think we'll start with obviously the topics that we've got in the thumbnail. So let's just get into it, man. So we'll start with AEW reportedly haven't asked Bret Hart to appear in the Owen Hart Tournament Finals, which is it's a piece of news that genuinely did shock me. So the news comes from Dave Meltzer in the latest Wrestling Observer Radio. He said, amongst other things, that he spoke to Bret Hart himself and asked him, can you do it? Can you be at the Owen Hart finals in Vegas? And Bret Hart's response to that was, they haven't asked me. Dave did say he would get to the bottom of it by the end of the week, which popped me. So hopefully by the next Wrestling Observer Radio, which will be like today or tomorrow, we'll have a more definitive report on the actual status of Bret Hart. But yeah, your thoughts, Mr. Hulbert?
I fear there is kind of deeper elements at play with this, with Martha and, that stuff. Because that stuff got really messy. And listen, I love Bret, but like some of the stuff he said, it's hard, right? It's hard for us to comment on. But some of the stuff, as a fan of Bret and someone that backs 99% of what he says, even some of the stuff he said was like, you probably could have left that. But there was stuff about like him wanting his match library and stuff, and like bless Bret, he takes that stuff so seriously, like dangerously seriously. So I think another thing is just it's a major factor. I would assume, we don't know, right? But I think, and like you said, Dave's probably going to get more on this, but this story's been really interesting because it's kind of been framed, and you can probably know more than me because you listen to the shows. Okay, but it's kind of been framed like it was a bidding war. And like, is it not more a case that Bret may just have a contract all along? What do we? Is this like a recent signing? So what do we think? What do you think? I
don't know. I feel like the impression I'm getting when I listen to Dave is that like it seemed to have been like well known, or at least public knowledge, that Bret was on a Legends deal with WWE. I don't think it's something that he's signed recently, unless or maybe it could have ran out and he's re-signed another one or something like that. So I'll read the actual quote because I am on the world famous WrestlePurists.com looking at the article that I wrote myself. Okay, so what Dave said was, I was told that AEW believes that Bret cannot work for them because of a WWE deal. Bret has a Legends contract with WWE. I don't know what it restricts, so I'm not positive if he is stopping Bret from appearing in AEW. He definitely has a Legends deal and a merchandise deal with WWE, so he is under contract there, but I don't know what the stip is as far as it relates to AEW. AEW believes that they can't use him, but I'll know if that's the case or not by the end of the week. Then he did touched on the Martha thing, of course, like what you mentioned, and he said, obviously I know that Bret and Martha have had their issues, but it would be something. Obviously, if he was able to make it for the Owen Hart finals. I actually asked Bret when I contacted him a couple of days ago, I was just like, can you do it? Because it would be so cool for him to be in Vegas for the finals for the Owen Hart tournament. I think it would just be a nice symbolic thing. And he was just like, they haven't asked me. That's what he said. But I think it would be something cool. The key is Martha and everything. So I think you are kind of close to looking at him.
Murph mentions in the chat saying that this is what I believe the case to be, which is that after he did a Double or Nothing appearance, I believe the word was they signed him then, in response to that, as if to say, let's keep Bret in hat now. And here's the thing with this, and this is important. Yeah. We always get stuck in like, we can't make decisions for wrestlers, but I think we're allowed to give our opinions on it. In this particular case, bro, I don't know what them Legends contract look like, but like, you're staying at home to be in a video game, get an action figure. God bless the Hitman. I ain't like, when it's a big wrestler and they choose between companies, I can't tell them right or wrong, but I think it's fair to give an opinion. With Bret, it's like, dude doesn't have to do anything. Can they pay him? That's a pretty good deal if you ask me. Beautiful. He still gets his roots of fight thing, all that stuff, Yeah.
Poetic stuff, man. Hopefully he's getting paid for it, The WWE Legends deal is kind of weird to me, man, because we're all so different. So it's like the one Undertaker's got, he's getting looked after, Yeah. So I'm sure that's different to one that someone like
Jimmy Hart.
Yeah, So yeah, man. I'm sure they're all different because that's that's the vibe I'm also getting from Dave in terms of like what it restricts, what it doesn't restrict, what you can and can't do. They all seem to be different.
I think it's a leverage thing. I think some guys, like a Bret, he can probably work a deal where he says, I still want to do my conventions, I still want to sell my brand, but like you get this licensing, like video games, action figures, so they can make that stuff. Where I'd assume that's because, like, let's be honest, I don't think I'm talking out. Some legends are making less money at a convention than Bret the Hitman Hart, a lot less in some cases, and they're cool with just getting a consistent wage. So I think it depends on leverage and stuff. I think that was one of Sting's. I remember reading with Sting's. Bless Jimmy. Do you know that Jimmy Hart like stays super locked into the scene? Do you know that? Have you heard?
I look. Because I'm one of the shills who actually watches WWE documentaries, so like I really enjoyed the I really. It's like because it is funny though because it's not like I'm watching them taking everything as fact. It's just content. It's just content that I just mindlessly watch. Man.
Yeah.
See a few faces that I like, a few that I don't. It's always a bit of a ride.
Yeah.
But like when they were doing like the A&E series and stuff like that, and I forgot what it's called, like his Hidden Treasure. Can't get my words out. Hidden Treasures with AJ Francis.
Oh yeah,
top dollar. Like I was watching all that shit, and Jimmy Hart was on a few things like that, and he's you can tell he's locked in, man. Like you said, he's well aware. I love it when the older guys are like that, though, man. There's a certain charm to it. Instead of just being a hater, instead of just being like, oh, the kids today, they don't know how to work. Because embrace it, follow it,
If you have very particular taste of like old school wrestling, there is definitely something that you can watch today that would pop you. Like I refuse this.
So many options.
Like, look, I'm sure a AEW trios match may make you kind of roll your eyes, but if you saw the matches Punk's having are literally like love, letters to these matches. So I think it's cool when guys out. I love talking about Jimmy Hart. I've really taken this off the rails, but my point was going to be Jeremy. One of my favorite headlines that my pal Jeremy Lambert got for Fight Points was like Jimmy Hart pitches Naomi and Ember Moon as women's tag team champions, and I just texted like, what are you talking about? Why are you making this stuff up, man? He said Jimmy Hart. He said in an interview, he was like, I always watch in case they call me. They need me for a run, brother. I know what's going on. I mean, God bless him. Been waiting now for about 25 years, but he's locked in. He's ready to go.
Yeah, God bless. He's So when I was on the other day with Backup Hangman and Manny, to summarise when we was talking about Bret, I asked them if they think we'll see him in AEW at some point this year. What's your answer to that? Yes or no?
No, because I think the indie thing is a pretty good. It feels like a tell, doesn't it? Him taking an indie booking with FTR is like. But I do also. So this is where I struggle with this story. Do you remember when they asked him? Was it the High Spot signing when they asked him like, what do you think about the rumors of you managing FTR and like going to AEW? And he's like, to do what? As much as it pops us, like imagine Bret just like traveling the country managing FTR and not like just doing promo. It would just be weird, man. It's such weird. It never made full sense, but I think Tony Khan's crazy enough that we all thought there was a chance. It makes way more sense for him to just do a one-off indie date with FTR and like that's it. Like way more. But
even in
Brock Anderson up front, so that'd be fun.
God bless. Even if he was to come in AEW, like they could do it as a one-off, because like you said, like how much is he really going to do? They could just book a huge angle where they've got a big match coming up, and Bret Hart can be their like mystery manager for that one match. Because at the end of the day, like you said, how much is Bret really going to want to do? Obviously, we're not talking for him, but But one of the things I've mentioned before is that like one of the most magical things and funniest things for me about this whole story is that if this does happen and we do get FTR with Bret Hart alongside them, he literally just has to stand there. And you don't have to do a thing. He just has to stand at ringside and just be there. And FTR already probably the most over tag team in the world as it is, but that would be crazy. Like I said, and you don't even have to do anything.
You're right, but the thing that makes it more complicated is, and I say this as like a full-on Bret Hart stan, but like, yes, he wouldn't have to do anything. The problem is more that what would he do if he did have to do? Because like Bret promos pop me.
Yeah.
Brother, Bret doing promos in 2022 with Dax and Cash is a bad idea. Like, I'm telling you with confidence that would be bad. So, like, you're right, but at the same time, it's like, what I think the biggest value he'd have to AEW, genuinely, ironically, is the same as he has to WWE. Action figures, video games. It would be real cool if in the AEW video game you could play Bret Hart and Kenny Omega, wouldn't it? That would be cool. But then, like, if you're in that kind of bidding more with WWE, it feels like they'll always, they have so much just, throw away money with that sort of thing.
Yeah,
so
literally.
It's difficult. Like, some legends fall into a lane of, like, they could do anything for you on TV and you'd be better for it. Like, they're just good personalities. Bret is a different guy. He's all, who's similar nowadays? Now that he's retired and can't take bumps? Kurt Angle's in a similar spot. What are we going to do with Kurt Angle on a wrestling show? Bless his heart. He is what he is. Guys, when they age, it's difficult. And some guys can be on TV forever. Some are better just doing their thing and living in peace, man, and being legends. Simple as that.
Yeah, especially these like legendary top tier workers that were kind of like, even though they had other things as part of their package, like one of the main things that we talk about is them in the ring. It's not like we're going to get Angle or Bret Hart jumping in the ring, hitting suplexes on heels. Like, that's not happening, And like you said, Bret Hart promos, like, I like them. You said they pop you, but in 2022, it's a different thing. Kurt Angle could probably still get away with it, to be honest, because he's just that, like, he's just really fun, I
think Kurt, how do I put this? There are other factors at play with Kurt. It feels like he's slowed down some. And I mean that with the most love possible, because he left everything there. But if you listen to his podcast, like, I think Kurt's at a different point in his life and doesn't even become promos. It's tough. He took a lot of damage, but you're right. He's a different case, but it's interesting. I mean, like, a perfect comparison would be for the other side. Look at Regal. Is there a job in wrestling Regal can't do? It's like he could be the announcer, the authority figure, the manager. Like, he's just great at wrestling TV. Dudes age differently and have different value and stuff. So it's interesting.
It's like, it's not even so much the physical thing. It's just like how their act ages. So it's like Regal is probably in worse condition than the other two guys that we mentioned physically. But his character and his presence it's timeless to an extent. Like you said, there's many roles for him to have. It's kind of it's a weird one. I'm kind of on the fence. I can't really decide if I think he's going to show up or not. I think them not even asking him yet is kind of a bit of a tell, because they must know, even though Dave put in the newsletter that AEW is under the belief that he's under contract, I'm sure it's like, I'm sure it's not just talent. You know what I mean? I'm not sure it's not just backroom chatter. I'm sure it's like,
it does make those like that 3 weeks of TV though, where it felt like they were hinting, is so weird to look back on now.
Yeah.
Because, like, did they not think he was under contract then? Like, it was because they definitely were hinting. Let's not pretend they weren't. Like, they were hinting. They dropped some lines in there, and they did the thing that I hate, the worst thing in wrestling now. They did the pink light behind, which has now become like any possible light behind I have to investigate now. Like, I'm doing detective work.
It's the worst, but like the back in the background of a promo, it's not the ideal way for someone like me to watch wrestling, really. But like, I always I appreciate hints and subtle storytelling, but sometimes just kind of like, chill out a bit, especially if especially in a situation like this, if you don't even know you're going to get the geezer. So
it's worse when it's something I don't like. So, like, when Sean got the story about Rhea going into Edge's faction, And that night she did a segment and there was like a purple. I was like, this, you know what, man? Don't taunt me with this, you know? Like, I've got like 2 more weeks until she's in the thing. Don't rub it in my face here. But that's another conversation for another day. You and I have to do a whole pod about Edge one day. It's fine.
Yeah, I'm sure. I could go all day, man. Like I said, it's not for me. Yeah, it's really weird. I think Backup Hangman was saying the other day that, like they were so overt with the hinting and it's just, it really felt like they believed he was coming. It's, really weird. I'm sure there is a bit more of a story behind it, to be honest. Especially from the AEW point of view. Because I'm sure from Bret's point of view, it's probably just like he's probably just sat home like, fucking no, that's me. Like, I'm just chilling.
Still in the
call
mood,
me if you
brother.
want, but I'm just chilling.
It's crazy. Man. We're looking like Bret has been retired now for 22 years, over 22 years, and like here we are talking about him, right? And there's value, and it's fascinating. I mean, you often see people saying, and I get the meaning of it. You know, when people talk about athletes and whatever, and they say legacy doesn't pay the bills, and it's like, well, actually it can, because if you have a pristine legacy, you'll have dipshits like you and I talking about you 22 years later getting fired up about your role as a manager on AEW TV. So, can pay the bills, I guess.
Yeah, it's definitely. If you're that right kind of character, especially if you kind of like, excuse the pun, but especially if you're like a purist like Bret, and it just it just ages so well when you have characters like that. It's like I have no doubt in my mind that Bryan Danielson in 30 years' time is going to be showered with praise the same way that we do with kind of like Bret now. Especially the way, Bret's legacy is also aged like wine. It's great, especially in recent years. People have really like locked into that, Bret better than Sean, Bret better than everyone, Bret's the GOAT, blah, blah, blah. He definitely has a case. Like I said, it's and the right legacy, it can,
Well, the Danielson thing's interesting because, and I've thought this for a while, and look, I don't know where you're at on this. I think it's not a hot take, but I'm interested to kind of explore it. I genuinely think that in like 20, 30 years, he will be like the consensus greatest of all time by like a mile. Like, I think people will genuinely think he was like a fake person. Have you ever looked at this is the nerdiest thing I've ever said, but I'm sticking to it. Ready?
I know what's coming.
I know you do. Pull up Bryan Danielson's cage match, okay? Go to the match guide section.
No, one sec, because I'm actually going to do this with you.
Okay, and what I want you to do is I want you to sort by rating, okay? Brother, you're looking at like 120 matches that are over an 8. This is absurd. There is no need for this from a human being. Now, there's other guys that are great, but like Bryan Danielson he's a special kind, man. It's tough to put into words, honestly.
I can't remember which time I was talking about it, but it's like with Danielson as well. It's like when we talk about him, it's like even now he hasn't even retired. Like I know he did for a few years, and that kind of, it definitely has helped us appreciate him more now that we've got him back. But just the way that we talk about him, like he's a wizard, he's majestic. It's like it's not just like, oh, he's great. Like we try to find these other words to try and tap into what he is. It's tough, man.
He's this is how great he is, okay? He is probably the best heel in-ring wrestler in the world today, okay? 7 years ago, 8 years, good Lord, it was 8 years ago. 8 years ago, he was such a great babyface that he like basically forced WWE's hand. Like they refused. They had to do that night in New Orleans. And I think everyone agrees he's a better in-ring performer as a heel by far. It's like he was such a great hero, such a great protagonist that he basically broke their whole system. He's just special, man. And when you you look, he's in the mid-2000s, you could argue that's his peak. You could argue that late 2021 was his peak. It's just, at some point you have to kind of appreciate while it's here, because I really do believe the next generation will think of him like this sort of mythical figure. It's fascinating. He's just extraordinary. He really is.
He really is. He's extraordinary, marvelous, wizardry, all majestic, all these longer words than just good or great. He's all those things.
Yeah.
So next, we'll move to FTR. Basically, they done a podcast with Wrestling Perspective, and they talked about the reports of WWE having some interest in them and wanting to bring them back. From the sounds of things, they haven't completely shut the door on it, but it sounds very, very unlikely to go back there. So to pull up the quote, he said that, where are we? Here's the thing. We respect Tony so much, we would never, in a million years, while we're under contract with the company, would we ever go behind his back and talk contract status with anybody else. No other company would never do that to him because we have so much respect for him, for what he's given us and what he's allowed us to do. Now, on the flip side of that, we're going to go where professional wrestling takes us and wherever the best opportunity is for us and where we can build on our legacy. That's the most important thing. Obviously, money is really, really, really cool. I'm allowed to take care of my wife and my daughter. But whenever we initially got the contract offer from WWE, I called my grandmother and told her how much it was. I told her, I think I'm going to turn it down. And her exact words were, David, how much money do you really need? I was like, oh my God, she's right. My dad and my mum busted their ass to take care of me. If they can do it, I can do the same thing. And I don't have to do this. I do it because I love it. So we're going to go wherever the love of wrestling takes us. Yeah.
Well, it sure feels like an answer, doesn't it? I mean, you know what? I want to take a different approach to this because I think it's easy for us to go where the obvious answer is we all think FTR is staying. We all think it'd be kind of wild for them to go back. So, do you know what fascinates me about this story, man? It's like, I think FTR may be my favorite team right now, and I think they're at worst, top 3 in the world. At worst.
Yeah.
But genuine question. You watch WWE TV. You see how they use tag teams.
Yes.
What actually is their value to WWE? Like, when you're talking about, supposedly Mark Carrano told them they could get them to 1 million each.
Crazy.
Brother, I think the world of them. And in a professional wrestling territory, their value is unparalleled because they're great pro wrestlers. In WWE, where you do 4-minute TV matches, 12-minute pay-per-view matches as a tag team, you know how they produce those tag matches. I mean, to the point where, and let me stress again, I love it. This is not a criticism of FTR, it's just a commentary on WWE. When they left and they switched.
Oh, you're freezing up.
Did I break up?
Yeah, you're back.
When they switched in Blake and Cutler as the heel team on SmackDown, they had the same level of matches because you can only do so much in 12 minutes on the middle of a pay-per-view card where no one cares. There's no heat. It befuddles me. And I assume they just don't want them in AEW, I guess. But $1 million each for what they're going to do.
I've got that kind of money though, man. I feel like it's easy for us to be like $1 million for them to do 4-minute matches on TV and get DQ'd and probably have 5-day title reigns or something. But million to WWE in the bigger picture is genuinely nothing.
Right.
It's one of the things that we don't really talk about too much, but wrestler pay, it's just, when you compare it to the amount of profit, the percentage of profit that the talent make compared to what WWE make is it's absurd. Absolutely. People talk about MMA pay all the time. They're getting a higher percentage than these guys in WWE, and that's a big problem with MMA that they talk about all the time. So yeah, in the bigger picture of things, throwing $1 million at FTR just to get them out of AEW, it's just, it may be worth it to them, or it might even just be Vince, Vince can just throw $1 million. That's not, it would be $2 million, of course, but
the problem is, Gallows and Anderson talked about this once. They explained that there was definite pushback from their peers when the number got out in the locker room. And brother, let me tell you something. There are going to be a lot of dudes that if FTR come in on them $1 million contracts, okay, so what am I getting paid? Because again, in their products, they're limited in what they can do because they don't do tag wrestling that way.
It's really weird.
It's such a strange, and this is where to me, WWE has done a good job in the last few months of kind of doubling down on who they are, right? Let's do celebrities and let's do, comedy and, we can roll our eyes at it, but it works.
I don't roll my eyes at it, to be honest.
Yeah. And this is in complete contrast to that because this is the kind of act where I think if they were level-headed, they would actually say, like, they're more valuable to them than us. Let's just leave it be. But they never do that, do they? They don't play nice like that. So they're going to try and put together some sort of big beard. That answer sure feels like Dax, like, telling you his read on it without completely cornering himself, right? Like, he doesn't want to say no way because you never know.
Leverage.
But yeah, he basically said, yeah, exactly.
You gotta at least try and be decent at negotiating when your contract comes up, especially in this day and age where there is options. You know what I mean? Because of course, if they actually wanted to, they could go back there and probably get $1 million upwards each. Especially if the contract. Well, here's the thing as well. So the initial report from Shawn myself is that their contract runs out in the summer, which then got corrected, and they've still got plenty of time left apparently. So like, it's a funny story in that regard too, because like this is a situation that we're probably not going to get a conclusion to for a year plus. It's not like it is actually running up in the summer now, so it's kind of funny, but it is still, a topic.
I do not know, but I am truly intrigued by why that story became a thing. Because it did not come out of thin air, and someone decided that should be a story, and it was one. And Shawn did his job, and I know that Shawn takes those stories seriously. So it's not like he just did it to be like, definitely. Like I've said this before on Late Night Green stuff. Like, there have been stories where Shawn has given 60% and given himself a little leeway, and I've talked to him pro, and he's been like, "This thing's done." So when he did the Cody story, I remember talking about this. Like, people immediately shut it down, and I was like, "This being a story is interesting." Yeah, clearly, as you said, FTR are over a year left, so they're not leaving. But like, there's a reason it's out there. I don't know what, I don't know who, but there is a reason, and maybe we'll find out in about 15 months, and we'll have to remember this conversation. Until then, it's going to be a whole lot of waiting, I guess.
Yeah. I think one of the big giveaways as well for how FTR see their own future is after that Briscoes match, and I think they've done an interview and they were talking about like how it's basically like their love letter to wrestling and tag team wrestling. It's like that's what they're in this business for. They'll get opportunities to have. Well, probably not too many as special as that particular night, but they'll have plenty of opportunities to have other special tag team wrestling nights. Like, they've literally done it a few days after with the Bucks. They've done it before with the Bucks. They'll probably do again with the Bucks. Yeah. There's a whole host of tag teams that you can throw in there with them. And in terms of like having these great matches, it's like they always get so much out of everyone. They're just so good with everyone. They're so moldable. Do you know what I mean? So it's like sometimes with tag team matches, like these tag matches weren't particularly bad, but it's like the Lucha Brother matches weren't exactly what we wanted them to be. I don't think.
They struggled a little bit.
But when that happens, it's like it's a shock. Like, whoa, But that's a testament to how good they are. Like, that was genuinely quite like a big shock to me that those matches didn't quite mesh the way that we thought they would. Because obviously, like when it's such an obvious clash of styles, they usually produce great matches. So you've got the technical, you've got FTR being FTR, no flips, just fists, all that sort of shit. Then then you've got Ray Phoenix doing.
I still like the matches. I have to say,
they're still good.
Them, but it's just, I know what you mean. They never felt fully formed. I mean, to your point, it's like I love looking at wrestling through that like sports roster perspective.
Yes,
and they are like the kind of guys you want on your team, right? It feels like you can throw them just about any assignment, and they're going to give you good TV. Like, they're going to give you something that's worthwhile, and they're never going to phone it in. You mentioned the Briscoes thing, and I said this the night of, and I think there were some folks that misread, like you just kind of laid out there. That's probably going to go down as the best night of their career, man. Like, I know that sounds weird. There was 3,000 people there, 2,000 people there. They work big arenas. The difference is
30,000,
brother.
For that match.
The difference is almost everyone in the building was there for that match, and that was when they chanted tag team wrestling. It's cliche and it's kind of lame, I know, but it meant something to them. Did you see Dax? He got off the apron, was high-fiving people. They were trying tag team wrestling because
got so fired up.
That was their like statement as to what tag team wrestling can be. when you got a monster like AEW, tag team wrestling is important, but look at how many great stars they've got. I love Ring of Honor. On that show, they were that show. Like, and again, I say this, so I love the Ring of Honor brand. I'd have watched that show if it was owned by whoever. I was going to watch it.
Yes. But
that was day and night, and they felt like the main event regardless of when they went on. And because of that, I think it'll always be very special because they basically made a money match on their own, basically. They did Twitter promos.
Yeah, literally. And they built this. It's like, it weren't even just like FTR and Briscoe's just taking simple, easy shots at each other like you do see sometimes with indie promotion matches. But it's just like pretty generic promos and stuff like that. They were actually like, they really made it about who's the best tag team, etc., etc. Then there was also the two captains of the teams, as Manny said the other day, like Jay and Dax, when they first got into the ring with each other, like that was. Oh, there was the start of the match. There was that moment with Jay and Dax, and of course there was many throughout the match. You mentioned one of them, like when Dax it all just spilled out of Dax. He gets down off the apron. He's the hardest high five you've ever seen. He was fired up, man. There was really special moments about that. I've said it a couple of times. It's probably the best tag team match I've ever seen on US soil, at least. Wow, even just the best tag team match I've ever seen that didn't involve one of the four pillars from all.
Yeah, because they're different, right? They're so. Yeah, it's a different thing, man. Like those matches are. It's the four biggest guys, top guys in the promotion having these like dramatic, emotional tag matches go 40 minutes. That's difficult, but I'm with you. Like the Manny actually tweeted that clip because when I did the feature for it, I remember him tweeting the clip, and this is where as wrestling nerds we like understand each other in a way that's almost frightening. He's like Manny legitimately tweeted the clip of just them two going face to face. And was like, "This is awesome," and I was like, "It's the dumbest thing ever." That I agree, but that's like one of the best moments of the match. The intensity on 100%. That's you can feel that, man. Yeah, and
it's like Jay gets in the ring and he gets Cash to get Dax in, man. Just the way that Dax carries himself through the ropes, looks to the floor like this is it. You know what I mean? And slowly walk up to each other. It was.
And here's the thing. And it's different because you haven't got access to an FTR, but in that match, you can find a lesson about where wrestling's at today. And there is definitely, within that build that exclusively took place on Twitter and one angle on a pay-per-view that, quite frankly, very few people watched, there is a model that I think if we ever see another national promotion can be explored. And I've been pretty consistent on this, and I think you can see GCW's success with it. I really don't know how much is to be gained from weekly TV unless you're getting real TV money. Because those guys built a feud on Twitter, and when they got in the same ring, the place was rocking and saying this is awesome because they were surreal to them. Some of these networks that wrestling companies find themselves on, like... And we both know, like
better off on YouTube. I'm sure that I'm sure they might get a little deal here and there and get some money trickling from it. But say if you're on YouTube and like MLW isn't as big as Impact, but they still get like I think it's like I'm sure they clear 100,000 viewers for Fusion. Touch and go. I haven't watched it consistently. I haven't watched it week in week out since it was like MJF and that all over there. So. Back then it definitely was, but obviously now I can imagine it has slowed down because AEW starting has took away some of their. You take MJF away from a company, it's gonna hurt them,
But the thing too is, and this is where it gets really interesting. I don't even know if it's just the broadcaster. I am not sure. At this point, you can do weekly TV outside of the big two successfully, because. Here's the thing. We both know people don't watch Raw. I'm one of them, whatever. Raw, NXT, SmackDown, Dynamite, Rampage. That's 5 days. A
lot of hours.
And like, I know that SmackDown and Rampage are the same day, but you have Thursday. Great. I really think that if you're ever going to see another promotion gain real traction and get people's eyes, I don't know if you can do it being like, we're on this night of the week. I almost think you have to sell fights. You have to sell events. GCW has success with it. Now, I'm not a huge fan of their product. I don't think you are either. But like, look at how many tickets they sell compared to national television promotion.
Did you see the WrestleTix tweet? It's something about Impact tapings. I don't know if it's the ones happening tonight.
It is.
Those sales were absolutely brutal. I think like, but I feel like I could book a match tomorrow and draw more than that. Do you know what I mean? It was criminal.
I was kind of hinting you give it, so let's just go that direction, okay? At pay-per-view last night, I've watched 2 hours of it. It's a good show, and I'm told the main event's really good. And I've said this, I think Scott D'Amore's regime at top of Impact has been their most prolific in terms of pay-per-view quality. People overestimate how great it was back in the day. You know, I honestly think they put out pretty good shows now. I'm not trying to dunk on them. But there was a whole lot of talk about a sellout. And if you only put out a certain amount of seats, you may sell them out, but that is not a capacity, you know. I think WrestleTix said they had like 500 for the pay-per-view. And they had shy of 200 as of yesterday for the TV. And listen, you and I can make our jokes, but like, if you can't see the lesson in that compared to what a GCW manages, because let's be quite frank, I mean, Impact's got some talent on that roster.
Yeah.
And they're struggling to get any kind of buzz. I mean, it's and I don't think we can just sit here and say it's all their fault by any means. I just think there's a truth to like the limitations of being just a weekly TV show. It's hard.
I mean, it's not all their fault, but
no, some of it is.
I feel like, you know, a big percentage. I'd say a big percentage, maybe sometimes. You know, the whole. I feel like the whole Moose Josh Alexander thing is just, you know, when like, that's a 6-month build that drew 500 tickets. You know, and I think I can speak for both of us when we say like we both really like Josh Alexander. Moose is you get what you get, I suppose. But you know, it's when the headline of the pay-per-view is a world title feud that has been going on the past 6 months, and it's meant to be your next top babyface winning the belt, crowning moment, etc., etc. They're basically it's like their version of Hangman versus Omega at Full Gear, and it's drawing basically nothing. Like that, he probably would have drew 500 people off it just being Impact. Maybe, well, with the ticket sales they do, maybe not. But it's really brutal the numbers they're drawing, and you know, like you said, like with the TV deal they're not getting great exposure. Probably would be better off on like a streaming service, like even if that's just YouTube, literally.
See, this is why I struggle. Like that Moose Josh Alexander story is such an interesting like case study of what wrestling is now, because I think it worked for their core audience. Like they were into it, and from what I heard, the crowd was into the main events. They wanted Babyface to win. That's good, right? But like, why do you book for heat? Well, to do good business, to get people to pay money for tickets, to get money to buy pay-per-views. And it's like, well, if it did neither of those things and it only appealed to the audience that was already watching, couldn't Josh have just been the world champion? But wrestling people are so stuck in their like, yeah, but heat. It's like, no, you don't just do heat for the sake of it. Once
very old school.
Yeah.
Very old school, man.
You have to remember, heat was, once upon a time, wrestling promotions would run arenas week after week in the same city, same state, whatever, territory, depending on what territory. So you book for heat because you need them to come back the next week. You need to give them enough that they're happy, but leave more for them to come back. When you're running, 4 pay-per-views a year, and you're booking for heat, who are you actually doing that for? Just to be compelling to your base? Like, and if it is that fair, like it looked like it was a well-told story. I'm not even trying, but you're right. Like, if it didn't do any business, then what was achieved? I don't know. It's I defend them in a lot of ways because I do think if you and I had changed everything we wanted to about Impact, I think there's a good chance they do the exact same numbers. I think that just may be what they are at this point, which is like, in many ways, more depressing than saying it's bad, but I think there's a chance that's the case.
I feel like the third promotion is I feel like when we talk about the third promotion, people say like it either is GCW or it's going to be GCW.
Yeah,
it's just kind of like they suit doing what they're doing. Could you imagine like a big time GCW? Like it would be. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not what they are. Like what they are is what they're doing, and I'll kind of tip my hat to Bret in that regard because he spoke quite openly about we're going to stay this way. I'm sure obviously if fucking TBS threw 50 million at him, that would all change. But
could you imagine?
Telling Bret no blood, no nothing. Yeah. But yeah, that GCW are what they are. I feel like the third promotion, which I think Ring of Honor could literally be exactly what I'm about to describe. It needs to be. It needs to go back to like what Ring of Honor was back in the day, where it was.
Agreed.
They're just churning out these fantastic matches that people can go back and watch, etc., etc. And it'll be like there's new. They could fly some guys over from Japan or something, introduce people to new characters, like what Ring of Honor was, like I said, 15, 20 years ago, however long it was. Right. So it kind of, even if it's just like a PWG that's more consistent and actually accessible, even while PWG is accessible, but just not, not ideal. Just, imagine just something like a YouTube show that's on once a week, once every 2 weeks, or whatever, once a month, and it's just a dream. It's just a dream card of indie talent. So you would have like your Mike Baileys versus Bandidos, etc., etc. Like a PWG card, but just on YouTube, more accessible, and just
with a certain promotional pack. I get you. The GCW thing is interesting because there is a lot. Like I know they lean into it. There you go, Freddie Prinze, legend, the great man. There's a lot. They lean into it and people laugh, but there's some meat to that, ECW comparison that they want them to get themselves to have. GCW. There's
100%. 100%.
They're homegrown guys. People can laugh at them, and I get it, but don't get it twisted, folks. If there was wrestling podcasters in 1996, they were laughing at them ECW dudes a lot too. That's the way it is. History's been. So the problem is, God bless him, Bret is many things. He is not Paul Heyman. We have yet to find another Paul Heyman. And the difference is, I don't follow GCW, but it does not appear to be booked quite as cohesively as ECW was in, say, 1996. That limits its ceiling as a product to fully explore. It's fun, but it's not creatively kind of innovative in the way that an ECW was. Impact, I remember Don Callis, and I know he's not there now, but Don Callis, what he wanted Impact to be was ECW. He said he wanted to be a place where guys, he wanted it to be a place where guys could reinvent themselves, get some exposure, but then, and there's truth to that, right? When Deonna Purrazzo's deal comes up in, I think, 6 months, she leaves Impact a hell of a lot more valuable than she entered it. That's cool. But again, isn't quite the perfect comparison, is it? It's hard. I agree with you completely that Ring of Honor is going to just fall into being the third promotion because, quite frankly, they have access to stuff that's just, when you can just be like, we're going to do Samoa Joe on the next tape and Bryan Danielson's going to work Gresham, at that point you've won.
It's so easy. It's so easy. So we'll talk, because we've just been talking about indies a bit. So PW Torch reported today that AEW pulled indie talent from a couple of indie shows, a PWG show and a Black Label Pro show that's happening on May 1st. And this has happened because basically AEW have moved around some tapings. They were going to do Dark tapings on April 30th and now they're doing them on May 1st. So basically they've just pulled everyone from their potential indie bookings. So the list of names is for Black Label Pro, the talent that have been removed from that show would be Lee Moriarty, Sky Blue, and it was noted as well that Jake something, who was, I'm not sure, is he just left Impact?
Yes, just left.
He's just left Impact, so I'm not sure exactly what that will mean. Obviously he could just be showing up on Dark, that is very much a possibility.
Yeah,
they do that with talent that they haven't signed all the time. That would be interesting to see. I think it's definitely something to keep an eye on if you are a fan of Jake something as well, because he's been pulled from this show, and if it fits the reasons why the other people have been pulled from the show, you can expect to see him on an AEW YouTube channel.
Yeah.
So the second show, the PWG show, the talent removed from that are JD Drake, Top Flight, and Wheeler Yuta. So I think it's fair to say that both of these shows have been hit pretty hard by this. If I was the owner of one of these promotions, I would be I wouldn't be best pleased. Obviously, luckily, there is still, there's still like a week or so to find replacements, but it's
a weird one, man.
It's tough.
I mean, I don't know how much you watch
taping as well.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know how much you watch it, but like
we
do a live watch along every week, and I barely watch. I mean, I really enjoy AEW, but like the quality of that show is, you could say, at least inconsistent. I think would be sometimes Dark's good, and sometimes it's just like 4 matches. It goes like 20 minutes. So the idea that you need JD Drake to be at this Dark is really
anyone.
Yeah,
but especially like, Utah, unless
Yeah, because he's a TV guy. You're right. Yeah, Jake's something. I think you're right. He'll probably just be on the losing end of a match, and they'll have a look at him and look for him. God bless him. He needs to take that booking, right? See, because he's an impressive looking guy. He can do some cool stuff. If he gets in front of Tony Khan, he could get himself a contract.
Yeah.
Good luck to him. I agree. But someone like Willie Eater, like, he don't need to be on Dark. He's wrestling on TV every week. So
it's not like they're going to do an angle. Do you know what I mean? They don't do that on Dark. Really?
I wish they did.
I get told that sometimes they do on Elevation or something, but
yeah,
that's always been my thing with Dark. Like, we can kind of segue into this. So my thing with Dark is that I want it to feel genuinely like a third show that's just on YouTube. I just want it to be like Sunday Night Heat on YouTube. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. You know, like, I understand I'm not going to get Danielson and Punk and all that sort of stuff on there, and those like MJF, etc. But I'm still going to get like a wrestling show. Like, you can still do big angles. Do you know what I mean? You can use it to build up women's angles, so the matches aren't as cold when they move to TV. You can do all these other things.
Yeah.
Instead of like, when it comes to the TV, you're doing all these like 60-second promo backstage things. You can throw Jay Cargill out there, for example, to do an actual angle instead of just doing a 60-second promo. Then instead of the 60-second promo on Dynamite, you can do a replay of that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it builds an angle a bit better. But instead, it's just match after match after match after match. And it's like, what are they actually achieving? Because especially for the development of talent as well, it's like, if a green talent is wrestling, getting squashed every, in 2-minute matches on Dark, like, what's it really doing? But if they can actually like go out there, cut a promo or something, or you know what I mean, try. I don't know. I think there's a lot that they don't tap into with Dark, what it could be, what I think it should be. And
I agree completely. I think there are wrestlers that basically live on Dark that there's no reason you can't do feuds between those wrestlers. A good example would be Janela and Sonny Kiss did this. And if you watch Dark, you appreciate it. They had like a big blow-off match with the table spots and stuff. And like, that's so rare. Like, there's no reason in his 6-month stay on Dark, Frankie Kazarian can't do a program with someone, right? Like, you could do feuds.
But there's so much talent too.
Yes, absolutely.
It could be so legitimately good. Like,
I think, and this is all guesswork, this is my read, I think it is a way to give guys something to do when they show up to TV. And that's the elevation portion of it. When you have guys around, go out and do a match. I think the reason the matches are what they are is because in most cases, they do not want their guys getting kind of banged up or hurt working Dark. And that's why I think you get so many squashes. A good example of why this can be frustrating is Janela's last match in AEW. Him and Kingston wrestled on Battle of the Belts. The special, they only had 1 hour of content, right? So they're Dark. They stacked that night. Battle of the Belts got a really strong Dark. Eddie wrestled Janela in a nice, I think it was 7-8 minute match, maybe more, I don't know. And he broke his elbow bone. And shit happens, right? I'm not pointing fingers or anything, but you could imagine a Chris Jericho, when he wakes up on Sunday morning, finding out this has been the case, and being like, what are we doing, I think when you have the style they have when they're on TV and on pay-per-view, they don't want to run up that bump count on Dark. Then your question would be, so why do the show? And here's where this may sound cynical, but it's what I believe. I really think it's as simple as just getting those hours up there. I think when it comes time to make this streaming service deal, brother, that Dark program has given them like, what do you think, 200 hours of content they can list as part of their arsenal, part of their library?
Probably more.
And that, as cynical as it sounds, and as much as it doesn't matter to you or I or anyone in the chat, That's big, man. You know, you can add that as part of what you're selling. And how many people are going to rewatch Dark in 5 years? I don't know. Hopefully very few for their own sake. God bless them. But it's a thing. It's content now. And I think it's basically a place to keep guys active without them actually being in risk of hurting themselves for the most part, which is not the most compelling show. But to your point, that doesn't mean they can't do segments. Clearly. I mean, they could still do promos. It would be perfect. But maybe that helps.
Promos and in-ring segments and stuff like that. You know, it's
good practice.
Like I said, it's not. I'm not even necessarily asking for like longer matches or anything. Like what you said with the Joey Janela, Sonny Kiss stuff. Like that would be also cool if we could get big angles out of blow-off matches and stuff like that. But you know, like let's
just want promo.
Like I said, angles, man. Like especially for someone like Jade, because like we've never really seen her go in the middle of the ring and cut like a long promo, if that makes sense. Like if I was to do it, I would have her do it on Dark a few times, see how she gets on with it. Because those in-ring promos, if it's not the right person, it can be brutal.
Oh yeah.
So you know, see Sammy Guevara. You know, I know it's so easy to like dunk on him at the moment.
No,
but
you're
it's
right.
like
I agree.
it's such an easy thing to go to because it's happened recently. But it's like some people just. It's, you know, there's some people who are better at pre-tape, some people are better at in-ring promos, some people are better at an array of things. It's just...
Well, that's where the studio should help. Like. So this is where my frustration is completely with you, because I got really excited about them doing Dark in Universal Studios because I've wanted them to do an actual studio show. Like a real, sincere studio show. That rules. Yeah, I pop me. God bless you, Elliot. I wanted them to do a real, sincere studio show with promos that fit that vibe, with matches and contain storylines like the Sonny Janela one we mentioned. The studio really is just like, they just shoot it and present it as though it's any other C-show. It's just got less fans. And it's like, man, you could do cool stuff with that, right?
Definitely, yeah.
Like, imagine you had Shivani. Shivani loves coaching talent. Imagine everyone that wrestled did a promo on Dark. 2 minutes. You have 2 minutes, get yourself over, you know?
Yeah, like imagine if it was just like, even if it was just post-match ones, like, you know, like UFC. Perfect. Yeah. Like if you win your match, Shivani jumps in the ring and you get 30 seconds.
Yeah. I think it should be. They did it. You know who they did it with a couple of times was Moriarty, which tells you they know it's valuable because Lee's a guy they like and they had him cut post-match promos, I think, twice with Shivani. So they clearly get it, but they just don't do it a lot. Like, it's interesting. I think it'd be great. Like some of the women that just don't get a chance to talk on TV at all, like you know, a Sky Blue or an AQA. Wouldn't it be great for them to just get a 90-second promo in on Dark?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. Because you know, how are they going to get better otherwise? Like, you know, I haven't really seen too much of her, and you know, I probably should feel a bit bad at talking on this, but I'm pretty confident in saying that I'm sure AQA isn't an electric promo yet. Yeah. You know, so
she's got a long way.
Like I said, it would get, and also with Dark and Elevation, that like you have, for me at least, I have more leniency with it. So if someone goes out there, or say if there's a backstage segment or something like that, and someone botches a line in a promo, it's like, well, this ain't on. You know what I mean? This isn't the big leagues. This is what this is for. Making mistakes on here,
and it's not live. If it's that bad, you can cut it. You know, which I mean,
there you go.
They struggle with that at times, but you know, some of the stuff that's aired on those shows through the years. There was a match with, bless his heart, the world's largest lizard, as Jim Ross calls him, Luchasaurus. Remember when he wrestled Cesar Bononi on one of those C shows, and they left the whole thing in unedited? Oh my good lord, bless their hearts.
Criminal.
You need an editor sometimes. You know, it is what it is.
It's tough. It can be tough. Some of those edits. It pops me, but probably not for the greatest of reasons. Even the rampages, man. Like some of the editing that goes on there, it really is something, to be honest.
When they take like one shot of someone in the crowd and just come back in a different spot altogether, like there you go.
Yeah, crazy, and it'll just be like sometimes it'll be the most random person in the crowd as well. So like, I think it was they'd done it literally on Friday where there was a chant going on like "This is awesome" or something like that. And then it smash cut to like a woman in the crowd who was not doing the chant anyway. And it came back and it was in a different part of the match. It was
they did a terrible one on Friday, at like 4 minutes into Cole and Ishii, they just started to fight forever, and you could tell no one was chanting that at all. They were just all sitting there, and it was like, why are they chanting this now? They've just started the match. Because I guess they want to get the chant over because it's the video game, right? They're going to do that probably every week.
Probably, right? Yeah. Great. Filth. I hate all that stuff. So it was brought to my attention by our good friend Manny that AEW will be predominantly producing the joint show with New Japan, and apparently it's going to be. Well, I've been sent a screenshot, but it's on the Warner Media product as well, like Bleacher Report, etc. So I wonder if that'll lead anywhere. That could be, could be a lot of talk. I was going to say there's a lot of talk of the streaming deal, etc., etc. Maybe this could be like a feeler, or because it's a huge show and it should do a strong number. Because I feel like every person who's already bought an AEW pay-per-view, other than the one of CM Punk's return, which probably had a few outsiders come in to just see the novelty of that, it'll probably do, one of their best ever numbers, to be honest. Especially if they go the way that I think they're going to go with the matchmaking.
I do think the time will hurt it, though, because 4 weeks after Double or Nothing is tough. And they have to be careful with this because, look, our pricing's different here, right? But if you're a real hardcore fan, Supercard of Honor doesn't count, but it's a thing, right? More people bought that than would usually buy it if it wasn't bought by Tony Khan.
Oh, of course.
That's April. March, you had Revolution. May, you have Double or Nothing. June, you have Forbidden Door. You got to be careful with this, man. It don't bother me. It's, I'm sure it'll be a great show, but, you need to just be careful not to water down that pay-per-view premium. It ain't going to be a problem with Forbidden Door because you have the New Japan talent to make sure it's special. But I think it'll be really interesting. Now, here's a question for you. If a HBO Max deal comes to be, and you can get a New Japan product on there every week, do you put Strong on HBO Max, or do you put the New Japan highlights show that airs on Access TV? Do you try and get that on there? What would be better for the growth of the New Japan product?
So what's the deal with It's all on New Japan World. Like the real meat of what New Japan is the big matches on the pay-per-views. So it's like to translate that. That's what you need to show people. That's what made New Japan blow up with the US audience a few years ago. Because Jericho went over there, wrestled Omega, and everyone heard, "Oh, Omega's that guy who had the 53 million star match that Meltzer nearly passed out over." So people are like, "Oh, okay, I'm going to go watch this." Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And of course, obviously, like I said, Kenny Omega got a lot of clout, and it was just, and it was based off, 5-star, 6-star, 7-star matches almost. So it'd be a matter of how do you translate that into.
It has to be the highlight show, right?
Probably, yeah. But it's like, I've never watched one of those highlight shows, so I'm not 100% sure on what they actually show. So if a pay-per-view goes by, did the show just the highlights of the pay-per-view? Like, what did they do there? Because obviously that's the real meat with New Japan.
Yeah. I don't know what the delay is. I just know that they'll pick out 1-2 matches for their hour and give you a good look at
what's going on.
But the thing with that is Strong has more it's difficult. Right now, Strong has more AEW crossover, which is helpful when you're selling it to the AEW audience, which is ultimately what you are selling it to, right? If it's on HBO Max alongside, Dark and the AEW catalog, it would help to have some random Eddie Kingston TV main event on Strong. But maybe in a year's time, the crossover will be better, in Japan because we'll be able, talent will be able to fly back and forth. I don't know. It always intrigues me because, if the answer is the highlight show, and I say this is someone that likes Strong, hard not to wonder what the point of Strong is.
I like Strong too. It's literally, it's like the sleeper of the other shows, Because every time I watch it, it's like last night. they had. I'm not obviously it wasn't taped last night, but Buddy Matthews versus Yoya, and it's just like, then it's like Buddy Matthews versus these young lions. Like the match with Ren Narita as well. It's just like it feels like it has no right to be that good when you realise that no, this is a New Japan product and these are two really, really good workers. So I feel like if they were to do it with New Japan Strong, they would have to step it up with level of star power. And I know they do have a lot of big guys on there: Jay White, Swerve, etc., etc. Kingston's been on there, had a great match with
Gabriel Kidd.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah. They probably shouldn't. They would need to step up. They'd need to ramp up the star power a bit on there. To be honest,
production.
It's and with New Japan Strong as well. Instead of when they fly their top talents over to do Windy City Riot or Capital Collision, actually do it as a Strong show and have TV, have Okada on New Japan Strong wrestling.
Yeah,
no, they've done it with Buddy Matthews, but it's like they don't do it enough. Like Okada came over and wrestled. Was that even a Strong though, or was it like a Windy City Riot Capital Collision sort of show?
Okada and Buddy was a pay-per-view show. Yeah.
This is what I mean. So it's like even then they didn't do it.
That was the same night as Full Gear, I think. Do you remember?
Yeah, it was one of those weird.
It was West Coast, so they just was like, but it's on after, and it's like, but no one's. You can't.
The crowd was really weird as well.
Yeah, that's a problem with those shows. I think we both know that. Like, listen, I'm not criticizing it because when I go to wrestling shows, I'm a great big fucking dog, and I just sit there in dead silence and watch like a nerd. But like, that's what
star
everyone
rating
does.
graph out.
Brother, you've seen Strong. Crowds literally will just sit and watch the matches and be like, this is good. There is no energy. You'd have to really... I say all of this to say, like, when they announced the Access TV deal, it popped me because it's just like, wouldn't the whole point of Strong be that's like your US TV product? But like, I guess not. I don't know, man. You and I both like Strong, but I could talk for hours about what that plan actually is and what that model is because I have no clue what it does business-wise. I don't, and again, I like the show, but I mean, it's tough, man.
Yeah, it's tough.
We both know how few people watch it. Like, it is what it is, but it's just the New Japan product got over running these big events with these stacked cards, and they were like, here's what we're going to do in the US. We're going to tape TV and air it on like 4-week delay. Why?
It's just. I feel like some of the bigger companies as well really underrate the live aspect of everything. It's just like it's 2022, man. Like, you should be able to live produce something with very little hiccups, especially if you're one of these big TV companies or big wrestling companies or whatever it is, and you have access to funds, etc., etc., etc. It is really weird, man. Like I get sometimes, obviously, with New Japan, it's like you do the replays however many days later because, time difference and stuff. Like, I don't know what time the New Japan shows start over in Japan and what time it would translate to over here and in the US. But sometimes I get it, and some other times it's just like, just do it live, man. Like, how bad can it go? How much do you really need to edit out, etc., etc.?
Yeah. I mean, there was a good example. Like a couple of weeks ago on Strong, they aired a Wheeler Yuta match, and it had only been about 3 weeks since they taped it. But Wheeler Yuta wasn't over when they taped this match. And by the time it aired, he was the hottest wrestler in America, and you would never have known because he walked out of dead silence. Like, it's just, and again, it's difficult because it's like I can't criticize it in a sense that it's bad. I think Strong's really good. It's just I kind of refuse the notion it wouldn't be more successful if the show they run as Strong, rather than doing 4 episodes of TV, they just was like, buy this pay-per-view. Like, because that's what the New Japan product was, like you won events, the events on World Live, but they're desperate to do this TV thing. And, maybe I'm misreading it. Maybe it does great numbers and there's many people subscribe to Strong that only subscribe to New Japan World that only subscribe for Strong. I personally struggle to believe that. But, they've been doing it for long enough now. They must have an answer, bro. I don't know. Maybe I'm misreading
it's an interesting one. Oh, yeah. Just their whole use of just... What's the end goal of New Japan Strong? Because we was told as fans that it was like, how they're going to,
bridge the gap, between like the US. Well, have like a bridge between the US and Japan, and it seemed like their way of kind of combating the loss of, guys like the Bucks, Omega, etc., etc., etc. But it's just, like we've spoke about, it's like they don't, even though they're good, it's not really like, it's hard to see what the end goal is and what really is the point of them. I hope they don't go anywhere because, like I said, I enjoy them. Like,
oh yeah,
and the matches I feel like they are quite poorly promoted as well. So it's like,
yeah, a little bit.
When you like you wait every time so usually, because if I'm watching a indie show or something on a perfectly legal stream, I'll be on a certain site, and after the certain show finishes, they'll just play like a random New Japan Strong or something, because they do it as like a 24-hour stream, and it's just like I'll be watching it, and next thing you know, you'll just see like Blake Christian versus Swerve. It's like I didn't even know this match existed, and it's just like, on a GCW or PWG show or something, that would be, talked about and get a little bit more clout on Twitter. But it's like the Buddy Matthews Yoya match. It's like that's something that would definitely pop me, would definitely pop you. I'm not sure if we knew about that 24 hours ago.
Yeah, it just emerged. The best example I can give of that is our friend Jay Shell, who was really fired up about this Blake Christian Chris Bay match they had. I think they had it in GCW, or they have it in, I forget, I don't know. They had a match somewhere that she's very excited about, and I was like, trying to get to watch Strong. And the day before an episode of Strong, I was like, hey, by the way, these two wrestle on this episode of Strong. Neither of us knew. It had been taped 3 weeks earlier. There was no like buzz. And they had, they had their match. They had their like the whole, every move you could think of. It was really good, but that's the perfect example. Like, you need to be really tapped in to know. I mean, it's difficult. Like, there was the Swerve Jay White match they did. No one talked about that. That's a big match, man. Like, that's one of AEW's featured signings against one of the top guys in the world right now. And it just happened and went by, and people kind of, I don't know. Feels like we're kicking the shit out of them. We both like the show. I'd love to know more about the model. Because
it's such a weird.
Yeah.
It's hard to like. We don't like. We like it, and we don't even know what they're doing. It's like, it's weird, man. There's a lot of weird stuff like that in wrestling going on at the moment. So yeah, Impact Rebellion. It's not really a long subject so that we can say too much about it at the moment, but Athena is the new Warrior Wrestling Women's Champion. So not too long ago, I think it was earlier on this year, she had a really great match for said title when Thunder Rosa was the champion. They went to a 30-minute draw. Found it was kind of a weird decision at the time, but the match popped me that much I didn't really care, Then obviously AEW put their world title on Thunder Rosa. Thunder Rosa's, giving up the Warrior Wrestling title, and there was I think it was a triple threat match with Shazam McKenzie. Forgive me for forgetting who the other woman was, and obviously Athena. And Athena came out on top, man. And I wanted to bring it up because I know Thunder Rosa's in AEW and she was literally champion as she was in AEW. But do you think this is much of a tell to see if where Athena's future lies? Do you think she's going to be more indie dates? Because there has been speculation, and I have heard rumors about that she was meant to come in and it kind of fell through or something like that. Obviously, I won't speak too much on that because I don't know the details of it. Don't even know if it's true. Like I said, just a rumor. But Athena, yeah, man, just she and one of my friends was at the show and he was talking about Athena. It's like he was saying like she's so good. Like, she walked into AEW, she's immediately like a top 5 worker there, and it's just it's
I mean, what I think. I truly believe that, and I'm not educated enough on the Japanese scene, but I say with confidence, I think she has to be one of the greatest American women's wrestlers ever. I really believe that, because I'm telling you, if you look, she's been great for a long time now. People don't appreciate it. They think of her as like she appeared on the scene in WWE and she just left. Like, she has a whole career before that. WWE turned her down 9 times, I think, this days. You know? And one of the reasons I love her as purely speaking as a fan is the thing that she don't take no shit. And I don't know anything about the situation, but I could definitely see a world in which she would have certain opinions on some of the things that happen in an AEW that certain people don't want to hear. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, because she's not, and through very little fault of her own, I mean, she could be a better promo, but that, you know, whatever. She isn't a big enough star to make people look the other way on that stuff. Now, what I will say is I think it's mutual. I think she's making really good money on the independents right now because, quite frankly, she is so unique. She can give you a 4-star match and, you know, she can main event a show and you have confidence she's going to rock it, which is special. So I think she's doing okay. The big question will be when the money dries up on the indies, which it does, not because of bad performance, just because they see you, right? People see you and, you know, the novelty wears. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, there's a number of markets you can go into for the first time as an indie star.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So, you know. The
question is, what does she do then? Because I'm pretty confident she's doing okay right now, more than okay. But I wonder where she kind of settles down once the, you know, inevitably it kind of the novelty goes away. So it'll be interesting. The big thing for me is I just try and make a point of keeping on what she does. I watched the Swerve match earlier this week and or last week now, but I mean, she's killing it, man. And I talked about this on the Late Night Grin, but like people that dunked on her for that spot with Ty Valkyrie, you show a lack of understanding about where wrestling's at because she tweeted that clip, and I'm telling you now, that thing, like that, people saw that, you know, like
yeah, man.
Just because there's 50 people in the crowd doesn't mean you're supposed to phone in. That clip, she tweeted it. I'm telling you for a fact, there were promoters out there that were like, "Oh, she's going to bring it if we book her," because that's who she is as a wrestler. That's why, you know, it really said for that. She's great. She really is.
Yeah, definitely. And not to piggyback off the back of literally the last point you just made, of her not phoning it in. And you know, some of these bigger names do that a lot on the indies. Yeah. It's like, you know, I've only watched him a few times on the indies, so I weren't that well educated on, you know, how he goes about his business on the indies. But it's like last night on the same show, Warrior Wrestling Show, Will Ospreay was facing, I think it was Blake Christian, someone we was just talking about, and I messaged my friend that was there. It's like, you know, did Ospreay kind of phone it in a bit? And he's like, no. He's like, nah, no way, you know. And obviously that I guess that reflects with especially Will, because he gets booked all over the place, man. Obviously, you know, he's a lot of people. He's in that top tier of in-ring work for a lot of people, and that's obviously a big reason why. But knowing, you know, if I was a promoter and I'm booking someone like Will, knowing that he's going to come over and not phone it in and just go balls to the wall, it's hold on, what's going on? Yeah, just knowing that Will's not, he's going to come over and not phone it in. Same with Athena, she's not going to come over and phone it in. And when it's people of that caliber as well, you know, the bookings aren't going to drop just yet.
It's the there's a great, I can't remember who it was. Well, I think I know, but I'm going to leave his name off this for the sake of our reputation. There's a great Jim Herd story about Arn Anderson and Sid Vicious, which became much more ironic than it initially was. But he was explaining that Sid has more value than Arn, and someone on the booking committee told him, well, no, because once they see Sid a couple of times, they will know what Sid is. And as much as we pop for Sid, you know, you can explore that only a couple of times before saying, you know, I don't only pay to see him tonight.
Yeah.
Arn Anderson's peak might not be as high, but the audience that he draws on night one, he can bring back every night because he gives them their money's worth. It's the same thing, and that's why, you know, you hear some like people glorify guys that phone it in. Like, he's a smart worker. Like, what does that mean to you and I? You know, like
we just get less. That's all we get.
Like,
so I don't care if they're making more money for doing less. Like,
it's such a weird thing.
I want everyone to get paid. You know, and I want everyone to get paid for as little as possible if they can. But at the same time, when it comes to what I'm digesting, I want them to go all out, man. So,
and in Athena's case, especially, like the Ty Valkyrie match, they main evented that show, and that is still a big thing, by the way. Like, don't be fooled by the kind of glitz and glam of a Becky Bianca match, or, you know, in a general US indie show, it is very rare to win main event.
She's done it a couple of times, and obviously what we just mentioned about Thunder Rosa versus Athena, that was the main event of a Warrior Wrestling show, and they have access to some really brilliant talent.
That show, especially, it was stacked. So you best believe that if she's in that spot, she's not going to go out there and give them a reason to take her out. She's going to. That's what makes talent like special. Is she's had to do 150% to get 100 every time. Again, let me reiterate, turned down, I believe it was 9 times by WWE. It's tough, man. She ain't going to cut there and just waste anyone's time. She may do a spot that you think's done, but it ain't her body. It ain't her body. So, she's great. I mean, wrestling's better for having Athena active and out there doing her thing. Wherever she lands eventually, good for her, I think, is the conclusion.
So, we'll quickly touch on him. We'll talk about him because there's been a recent story that's dropped about him. It's behind a paywall, so we won't go too many details into it. But
is this about Jim Herd?
Close, but it's Mustafa Ali.
Yeah.
So apparently there's a possible of his WWE television return. Like I said, I don't want to go too much into the details.
Right.
It's only just recently gone beyond the paywall. But I just kind of want to use it to talk about Mustafa Ali. We might as well. Fascinating, isn't it? Because it's he obviously made it pretty clear. I don't know what the situation is now. I haven't actually had a chance to get through the post, but it seemed like he was pretty dead set on not wanting to wrestle for that company ever again. Wanted to get out, was very public, kicked up a fuss about it, etc., etc. Then obviously I found the reaction to it very telling about the way some wrestling fans are, especially on the online community are. So when the whole Free Ali thing first started, everyone was on it. Everyone, Free Ali this, Free Ali that, under every WWE post. And it's just like, when it weren't the fad anymore, I don't really see that anymore, I'll be honest. And obviously, I've got an account with a decent little bit of a following that's always tweeting about news and stuff like that. And I mention WWE all the time. Obviously, Ali hasn't been on screen, so he hasn't been mentioned as much lately. But like I said, when that first started, the whole Mustafa Ali situation, people would reply randomly to my tweet saying Free Ali. Like, bro, I'm not Vince McMahon. Like, don't come at me. But people were that fired up about it, bro. And it's just, like now, then it's tapered off quite a lot. And I'm sure now with this story, if we don't see him on TV pretty soon, that'll probably start again. But it'll probably be a bit more of a fad again. And in 2 months' time, if he's not on TV, like, we're not going to get the hashtags everywhere. Like, like I said, there's a lot of fads in this wrestling thing. It's like, if you're gonna get behind this Free Ali thing, get behind it, man.
Look, I mean,
it's like you with Samoa Joe. Like, you didn't, he was out in the abyss, bro. Like, we all love Samoa Joe, I love Samoa Joe. Obviously, you have a very special connection to Samoa Joe. Like, like, he's your guy, you know what I mean? You ride or die for that guy. Yeah. And when he was in the abyss, not in the news, not doing anything, not doing interviews, not even tweeting, doing jack shit, you were still, bringing him up, because it was genuine. Like, your fandom for Joe it's genuine. And like I said, some of this does feel a bit artificial. Like, I'm sure they always want the wrestlers to be doing what that makes them happy, and I'm sure it comes from a good place. But
out of sight, out of mind, man. I mean, I'll give you a different example because it's a guy that I think we're all kind of aware is in a good place, but it's been a really interesting watch from this perspective. Look at Gargano. 3 months ago, they did Beach Break, and the whole week, all we was talking about was, is Gargano showing up in Cleveland, right? And, you wait long enough, and guys come in, and things change, and it's like, people are now actively dismissing if Johnny has a place in any of these promotions. And I'm not here to give my opinion on that now, because, I'm not trying, the guy's out doing it. But my point is, there are very few people that actually care. And it isn't about, we're not here to talk about the discourse. And, the story is about Ali and his treatment in WWE. What I will say is, and I don't mean this as a knock on him, but, I couldn't possibly be less surprised at that being the story. Look, man, it's human nature to be dead set on a stance. And then, when you've sat home for 4 months and you feel like you're losing. Yeah, you feel like you're losing value. And the big factor is, and this is the elephant in the room that worries me. They did not do cuts after Mania this year, or not yet anyway. We've been 2-3 weeks now, so they haven't done them yet. If they did them and didn't cut him, it would have been a big deal. If he comes back to TV and they do mass releases again, that would be like some of the most cynical shit they've ever done. I sincerely hope we don't see that, because we all thought it, right? Like,
always done, man. Yeah. We've known them to be vicious. So.
I know no one, at the end of the day, people move on, which is what your point was. But like, what I'm saying is that we all kind of thought, well, I did anyway, Ali will be okay because they can't help themselves. They do mass releases and he'll be one of them. If they're not going to do releases, he's going to come back to TV, man. I'm sorry, it's inevitable. How many guys truly stay out of the ball game by choice? Eventually, you just feel like you got to go back. He's not. I'm sure he'll still leave when he can, but he doesn't want to sit at home and be
lose value, like you said, like you do, because he is genuinely losing value right now. And things like this can also sometimes things like this do end in a happy way where we get to see what Mustafa Ali is all about again. You know what I mean? Whether that's him getting released and having a classic on the indies, whether that's him getting released going into AEW, whether that's him coming back to WWE and getting a push. But it's tough, man. And I think obviously it has a knock-on effect as well, as Andrew mentioned in the chat. He was feuding with Mansoor. I don't even think we've seen him since, have we? Since Ali's requested his release and stuff, I don't think Mansoor is someone that they're very hot and cold with, and if it's the right time of year for them and it's coming up to a Saudi show or some shit, they'll throw him out there. But even still, like I said, he was actually getting like kind of like a TV push where he was getting some TV time, obviously with Mustafa, and that's all gone. So it affects other talent as well, you know.
They make sure of that. They make a point of it affecting others, because then it, that's the kind of personal element to it, and they love doing stuff like that.
Painting him as a bad guy.
Yeah,
he don't want to work for this company, this team effort, blah 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 blah. It's just.
I would say, in his position, through no fault of his own, he has probably not quite got the resume or name value to sit at home forever. So if I was advising him, I would say, realize that they cannot bury you, because they can beat Mustafa Ali in 90 seconds on SmackDown this week, and we both know that would only make the fan waiting for him on the other side more of a fan. We are in a weird place of wrestling.
It's like the Tony Storm thing, man. Like, people really wanted to see her go up to the main roster and do something, you know?
Yeah.
Then, she got the world title feud, blah, blah, blah. But, she just got dunked on. And it's like it just made it more special when she up and left. And
when that pie hit Tony in the face, her fans were like boosted by
moment in history.
I'm telling you,
when the second the pie touched skin,
people were like, "This is bullshit."
The world changed forever.
The fan base that watches the other channel sees through it, and that's a good thing for the wrestlers, because it means they can't bury Mustafa Ali. What are they going to do, really, man? Like, as long as he rejects stuff that's actively insulting, which he's shown he would do,
yes,
he's fine. Now there are some guys that are actually. They've done so much in their career, they can actually sit at home and be fine. Joe was an example of it. I mean, you just brought it up.
Like, it's nice for us.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
He could have.
Yeah, like Joe.
Regal, another one.
Brother, they said to Joe, go and be a scout. And he was like, okay. Because he knows when the time comes, people are going to remember who Samoa Joe is. They're going to chant his name and he'll be fine. I think Ali would be fine, but you don't want to, man, it goes too quick now. He's been home now for 4 months, we're looking at 5 months.
It's been a while, man.
Get back on TV. If you get 5 minutes, try and have an absolute banger and prove your worth. Not to them, because you might want to leave anyway. Just remind your audience that, like, you're still that guy, and when the time comes, you're going to be, unlocked. My worry with Ali is he's older than you would think.
Yeah,
he's not an old guy, but
he's not late 30s, is it? He's not 38 or something.
And that's always a bummer. Yeah, that's always a bummer, because it's like, with his talent, when his skill set, if he came to an AEW, you'd want to really build around him. But like when you've got that roster and he's 38, and it's like you're kind of looking, it's just that's going to be a little bit of a limiter. But he's a really unique talent, and I would love to see him get the ball somewhere, somehow. I'd
love to see both of the guys that we've mentioned, him and Gargano, in Ring of Honor, to be honest.
Yeah.
Just let them go out there, just banger after banger after banger, because they're not going to miss. We've seen Ali do it on 205. Gargano's matches sometimes can be a bit,
I think Johnny makes the most.
Still, overall, he's a fantastic wrestler. So, even though some of his matches might not always be for me personally, some of the longer ones that he's done in the past, maybe it was down to his dance partner. Not going to get into that. But, yeah, man, both of them phenomenal workers that, if given the opportunity, would, more than show their worth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and what makes Ali really interesting is he's done so many of those self-edited, self-made promos, which is really interesting. Like, him being able to send a promo to any promotion and like get himself over is a massive thing, man. Like, especially if I think he would be in AEW immediately, to be honest with you. But let's imagine that by the time comes, he's out of there and they pass. A lot of those other companies haven't got the highest production value. So him being able to just go and shoot something on his phone that looks better, immediately it gives his fans a bridge in. So hopefully it all works out. I mean, I think he'll make the most of the TV time he gets. I hope that he's aware that, like, you're bulletproof, man. Do your thing. The audience knows that they can see through that stuff, so he'll be okay.
Ooh, so
I got
you know what? No, it's because it's the same story. Those of you who are, just to do a cheap, well, not even a cheap plug really, because we kind of just give a little bit of the information out there. But obviously, Fightful Select, subscribe to that, and obviously you'll see the details, the story that we just mentioned, because there is a lot more details to it than what we've just mentioned. At the bottom of the post, there is a very, very interesting note. So, I get that some people don't always want to pay for wrestling news and stuff, but if you are willing, that is definitely with Fightful Select. There's some stories that are more worth subscribing for than others. In time, as in like picking a time to get in on Select. So it's like, like say if you're, for my fandom, for example, if I wasn't already subscribed to Select, and there's been some news teas for there, and I log on and I look at it, and it's like Impact contract status. Like, that's not really for me. So if I would have signed up for that, then that would have been something. But if you are into obviously behind the scenes WWE contract stuff, all that sort of stuff, Fightful Select is strong for that. So yeah, man. Obviously, like I just said, like this story that Sean's just dropped on Select now is definitely one of the better stories that he drops on there to get in to Select. But yeah, man, I think that we pretty much have covered the main topics of the day, unless the chat has got something that you want us to talk about. But like I said, I think we've pretty much covered everything for the day. Just to quickly touch on, you went to go see our boy Tyson Fury defeat Dillian White last night in the prestigious Wembley Stadium, 90,000 plus fans. I was told that you was very close to the ring.
Yeah.
How was it, man? How was it? Yeah, just kind of elaborate on how was it? Talk about the atmosphere and all that sort of stuff. Before we finish up,
there is a wrestling tie here too, because his comments about SummerSlam were hilarious. Did you see that?
Yes.
He actually said, like, I need to talk to Vince and the boys. What the fuck's going on around here? No, it was a blast. I mean, the fight was not competitive. Didn't catch fire. Oh no! Yeah, there's a big one just happened, hasn't there? I can tell by the
this one isn't even behind the paywall. Like, I'm sure there's more details on the paywall, but the base of the story is actually out. WWE is planning for the return of Asuka.
Oh.
Hopefully, we get her on TV tomorrow. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
She needed to be on TV months ago. Obviously, if she was healthy. The impression I got was that she was injured for a bit.
Yeah.
It was like a shoulder, elbow, arm, something to do with her arm. And it got to the point where it's like, how long is that really going to keep her out at this point? So yeah, like Asuka's back. Asuka.
Where do you put her?
It looked like we're gonna get Asuka back. Where would I put her?
Yeah. That's tough.
Probably SmackDown.
Because if you do a heel against Ronda, I've said this before. I have worries about that from a health perspective. That feels like a choice, you know. Ronda doing the big judo throws.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's definitely not something I think would be.
That's hard. I kind of think she'd be a good opponent for Bianca Belair, but I don't know, man. I mean,
I don't know if you could bring her back as a heel. People really do enjoy Asuka. People really enjoy her.
They've got Asuka, Alexa, and Bayley on the bench, and I think that about all three of them. Do you not think all three of them get cheered immediately when they come out?
I feel like you could bring. I feel like you could do something with Bliss heel wise
because she was there more recently.
Yeah, and just like she just has her as a character, I think just suits it more. It's like I can't really like in WWE's world. Like I know she's done it in the past and whatever. But in WWE's world and the way they do booking, the way they present stuff, like I genuinely can't imagine having any sort of feelings of heat towards Asuka as a heel. Like I just, she's just, she's all colourful and she has the music, and unless they like completely switch up her presentation, like they go back to some of the more darker stuff she was doing before WWE. Like you couldn't present Asuka the way she is now and try and get me to boo her as a heel. It's just like I said.
I agree with you completely, but like Bayley is probably the most interesting one because.
Oh yeah.
Like, how do you do that character as a babyface? But like, she's definitely getting a big reaction when she comes out.
Everyone loves her, man.
And like, I'm telling you, man. When was the last time Alexa was in front of a US crowd?
I mean, because Saudi was the Elimination Chamber match, and that was just weird, bro. Like, she just came back for a Saudi Elimination Chamber match. And...
That was a Mania payoff, I'm pretty sure. I'm sure I'm sure it paid well, but yeah, I agree with you. It was weird. It's been a while, man. I think all three of them get cheered. And then, as Andrew brings up, they brought Lacey back as a babyface. So it's like, what do you do then? It's like that feels like one that you could have brought back as a heel, doesn't it? I don't know. It's really strange.
It's a weird one. It'll be interesting to see where she fits. Like you said, because like. It's so weird with the women and throwing any extra women in right now, and because they need to do it, but it's just like, where do you slide them in, and do you have them as heel, as a face? Because it's so weird right now. Like I touched on it quite a lot yesterday about the women's wrestling podcast I've done yesterday with Jay Shell and Lovely. It's like there seems to just be this disconnect there with WWE. Know they've got something there with like all three women, but it's just like the connection's just not right there. Do you know what I mean? Where it should be. The same for like a girl like Rhea Ripley. Like she's on TV at the moment.
Yeah, they just don't get it.
They don't get her, but they kind of know they've got something there. So she's like they're gonna feature her, but not really the way that we want her to be presented, featured, etc., etc.
Genuinely, and like I don't look. This is guesswork, but like I think she could blow up crazy if they featured her the right way. I think Rhea Ripley could be like a massive deal for them. And I'm not sure she ever will be through their lens because, she's going to be with Edge in a minute here, pal. So buckle up. But I don't know. It's weird. Because my concern is like, so those three women we just talked about, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think we both know they could have a killer program with Bianca Belair tomorrow.
Yes.
But is that good for Bianca Belair wrestling them? When the crowd has missed them, they come back to a good reaction, and you have that thing where like people have fond memories of that kind of crop of women. And if you have Bianca just beat them all, as great as she is, because we both think the world of her, you naturally create that dynamic of like resentment among the fans.
100%.
Like, they brought Asuka back and just had her lose to Bianca Belair,
especially with the women, because people get really attached.
Yeah.
Especially to our good friend Alexa Bliss. People get, she has genuine stands,
Enough about Bob O'Neill.
I mean,
I thought they were real life friends. What do you mean?
Yeah, I'm playing. No, it's interesting. Like, because someone mentioned that to me about the Saudi thing you was talking about, where like that crowd's different, right? Like that crowd legitimately wanted her to win that match, which is hilarious to think about because like as a booker, you just kind of go, well, fuck, what do we do now? It's difficult, man. I don't know. Like, you could put them all in tag teams, I guess, but like that doesn't sound like the answer, does it? I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like to come off your point, just out of those three women, like they could all have killer programs with Bianca right now, but I think the only one I'd actually go through with it with is Alexa.
I do too.
Because like I said, I think she's a natural heel more. Like I see her as like a I do kind of see her as like a modern day Trish sort of thing. Like she's the cute blonde American. Yeah. Well, Trish was Canadian.
Promo heavy.
Yeah, but like she can still, she's better than the average. You know what I mean?
People overstate her deficiencies in ring. Like she's not Bayley or Asuka, but she's not like people overstate that, right? Like her and Bianca have always shown chemistry.
They do that a lot with WWE women, to be honest.
Oh yeah, yeah, they do.
Yeah.
There's a lot of names outside of the company that get certain reviews that I think they switch places, people will be surprised. I've always believed that, but yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, enough for Britt Baker, but
carry on. Asuka, she's the main story here, and I think the conclusion we both actually have before getting all analytical is we want to see her back on TV, right? I mean, I'm intending to do the Tuesday shows moving forward, which means I'm going to try and watch Raw, and like I would appreciate Asuka being on Raw. I'd appreciate all three of them women being on the show I'm trying to watch, so good for Asuka, good for her fans, because her fans are pretty locked in. I'm sure they've had a rough 10 months, difficult, I can relate as a Samoa Joe stan, but this has been exciting. There's all this news breaking. We were winding down. I was doing
I was getting ready with it. I was literally about to do, the plugs outro. Then next thing Asuka.
I was doing towels from the prize fight, and we were slowly kind of, letting the people leave the arena. But yeah, it was good.
Yeah, man.
News, man.
Like I said, I'm sure. If we do see Asuka tomorrow, or if we do see someone else tomorrow, they'll give us a good talking point for Tuesday. So, we'll see how that goes. Like I said, like I was saying before, more stuff popped up. I think we have touched on the main stuff today. So, before we get out of here, is there anything you want to plug real quick? We'll get moving.
The Late Night Grin, brother, you know that. LateNightGrin.com brings out everything you need. Go the free streams, the Patreon streams. We have no tiers over there. No tiers, just grins. That's the new catchphrase we're going for. $1 to get in. I think Monty can co-sign. There's some pretty good stuff over there sometimes. Only sometimes.
Yeah,
there's some pretty good
it's fine.
Yeah, it's all right. So that's the plug. But this was fun, man. We actually, I kind of come into this not knowing what we're going to talk about, but apparently we talked for about an hour and 40 minutes, so it's okay.
Yeah, it's just one of those. I just wanted it to be just a Sunday end of week talk, really. A few points to talk about, which would be a bit weird if we skipped on them. But yeah, that's all I wanted to be. So we're gonna get out of here. Do the usual: like, subscribe, comment, all that sort of stuff. Just interact with us. WrestlePurists.com. Go read a feature or something like that. At WrestlePurists, give us a follow on there. If you want to follow my personal page, it is at MontalWP. And yeah, have a blessed day, everyone.